Hey guys, welcome to the video. Salt here. Today we're going to be going over the Latron Prime Incarnon. Now in this weapon series, I take a weapon, I build it out, and I test that weapon on its own merits, meaning I don't mix it with any kind of external factors that would increase weapon performance. That would be things like Warframes using abilities, pets putting statuses on enemies, things like that. I just test the weapon by itself, and I let the viewer make their own intelligent conclusions about adding those external things. Alrighty. Let's go over to Crewman Bill here and see what he has for us. Latron Prime Incarnon. Looks like it was suggested to us by two different people. I didn't know who was first, so I just put both of them on here. So it was suggested by Ninja5879 and also commenter Zamai or Zami. I don't know how to say that. I'm sorry if I'm messing that up there. We have the top commenter of the last video, KS Nanosquid, and the first commenter of the last video, Sharkbite Acturus. Alright, let's get into the Latron Prime here. So the Latron Prime is a semi-automatic rifle, kind of like a scout rifle. It's not necessarily a sniper rifle, but it's definitely not an assault rifle. It's more of like a scout rifle in between. It could be built out pretty nicely, like even if you didn't have the Incarnon, but the Incarnon on this thing is so disgustingly powerful that you would, if you have the Incarnon, you should always build it out for the Incarnon, because this thing is disgustingly powerful. So let's get into the build here. Okay, interesting things about the Latron Prime. Let's go over that first. Well, actually, let me explain the Incarnon first. So, like most Incarnons, you get headshots, and after a certain amount of headshots, I think it's 8, if I'm not mistaken. With this weapon, I think 8 headshots will fully fill this up. You're going to be able to press your middle click. You'll go into Incarnon form, and when you're full, like when you go into Incarnon form with a completely full bar, you'll have 40 Incarnon shots. These shots are going to shoot this like little energy ball out. And the energy ball, if it hits something, is going to do forced impact procs. So things like internal bleeding could be good, although the weapon doesn't have under 2.5 fire rate, so it's not necessarily great. So I wouldn't recommend internal bleeding. If it was a little bit slower, maybe, but it has over 2.5, so that's not so good. So, all right, direct hits from the Incarnon, forced impact procs, but they're also going to explode in a 4-meter radius, and the explosion, if I scroll down here, the radial attack, which is the explosion, is going to have innate heat. Now we're going to put viral on it, and that's why viral is seen here. But it's going to have innate heat. So you get heat for free on the explosion of the Incarnon without having to actually put heat on your weapon. Now, that projectile is also going to bounce up to 6 times. And every time it bounces, if it hits something, it's going to explode. And it has the potential to do more damage. And also, every time it bounces, it has the potential to hit something like an actual enemy and do direct damage as well. So, you know, here's the direct damage of the Incarnon. Here's the explosion of the Incarnon. Okay, direct collisions, forced impact procs. We already went over that. Each time it ricochets, so it can ricochet 6 times. Each time it ricochets, it slows down the projectile, so it gets a little bit slower every time. And I think that's pretty much it for the Incarnon mode and how it works. Okay, so interesting things about this weapon. Disgustingly high crit multiplier, disgustingly high crit chance. There's ways on the evolutions to make them even higher. So this weapon is just nuts. Absolutely nuts. And it has a lot of puncture as well. So like the radial attack explosion produces puncture. Not forced puncture, but it has puncture on one of its elements it can produce. And the regular attack is also going to have a high puncture value. And puncture is also going to be increasing final critical. So a lot of crit potential with this weapon. Okay. So let's go over the mods now. We're going to have Galvanized Chamber for multi-shot. Galvanized Scope for critical chance. Bladed Rounds for critical damage. Hunter Munitions to have a 30% chance to apply a slash on a critical. Critical Delay for crit chance. Vital Sense for crit damage. and Malignant Force and Rhyme Rounds for the 260/60s to make viral. I would use the 260/60s over primed cryo rounds, just so you're more guaranteeing your viral procs. Viral only stacks at 10, so it's pretty easy to get to 10 on a fast-firing weapon, but this is not a fast-firing weapon. So you really want to guarantee those viral procs when you actually do hit something. And so that's why I recommend the 260/60s over the primed cryo. Okay, and in the Exilus slot, we're going to be using Cautious Shot. Cautious Shot is going to have a 100% chance to reduce stagger effect from self-imposed radial attacks. Because this weapon is pinging around and exploding all over the place, all over the map, you really need this, or you need to be playing a Warframe that has stagger immunity. So one or the other. Either you use Cautious Shot, or you use a Warframe that has stagger immunity. In the Arcane slot, you're going to go with either Primary Deadhead or Primary Merciless. So there's no recoil on the Incarnon weapon. So the Incarnon has no recoil. So Primary Deadhead would help the recoil while you're trying to fill your Incarnon. It's going to increase your headshot multiplier. You are going to be trying to go for headshots on the Incarnon mode. So even though it's like a ball that's exploding, you're still trying to get headshots because you're increasing your crit from doing that. So this is going to give you more headshot multiplier and flat damage. Now, what Merciless will do, Merciless will increase your reload speed. Reload speed affects how quickly you go into Incarnon modes. You'll go into Incarnon mode slightly quicker. And in the off chance you actually need to reload the base Latron, it'll help you with the reload on the base Latron, because the base Latron's reload's pretty shit. But it's important to know that when you go in and out of Incarnon, it reloads the weapon for you. So you should hopefully be able to mostly fill your Incarnon with 15 shots. So you shouldn't actually really ever have to reload, although when we get to gameplay, you'll probably see me reload a few times. All right. And that's pretty much it. I want to go over one augment, or not augment, but a special mod that Latron gets. It's called Double Tap. Okay, Double Tap. On hit, 20% bonus damage on the next shot for 2 seconds. Stacks up to 20 times outside of Conclave. So that's 400. When it's at max, it'll be 400% flat damage. That's pretty good. It's just, I don't really like the conditional. The conditional like really makes you spam shots. You're going to be shooting. You are likely going to be hitting things shooting every 2 seconds. Like you're more likely going to be shooting every 2 seconds than you're not. But in the case that you're not, you're starting to you're losing this and you're going to have to charge it back up. So I don't necessarily like the conditional on this. Maybe you do. If you want to use this, that's okay. Just remember, this is flat damage. So even at its complete best, it's 400% flat damage. And we already have 360 flat damage with Primary Deadhead. All right. Weakest mod on this setup, like where you would put your Riven, probably either Bladed Rounds or Hunter Munitions, but I would actually probably lean a little bit more on Hunter Munitions being the weakest mod. So Hunter Munitions is better on weapons that have super high alpha damage. And if we actually scroll down here, I know this is paper damage, and paper damage doesn't really get critical chance and critical damage applied to it, but it doesn't have super, super high alpha damage. So the slashes you get, they're pretty big, but they're not the biggest. It's not like a slash that you would get from, let's say, the Dread Incarnon. The Dread Incarnon slashes are going to one-tick a Steel Path enemy. These aren't going to one-tick a Steel Path enemy. So for that reason, I think Hunter Munitions is probably your weakest mod where you would put your Riven. But Bladed Rounds is close. Bladed Rounds is close, although crit damage I feel like is the strongest stat on this weapon. And that's why I think I would keep Bladed Rounds, and I would probably put it over Hunter Munitions. The other alternative to this build, now I sometimes do testing one up against another. I do viral heat versus, in this case it would have been gas. It would have been viral heat versus gas. And not gas electric, weirdly, just gas. And it's because this weapon has innate heat. And so to make gas, so innates kind of sit at the end here. So to make gas, you have to put heat here, or not heat, sorry, toxic here, and it would mix with the heat, and it would make gas. If you try to put electric here, it's going to give you some weird... It'll be electric mixed with your toxic, which would make corrosive heat, which is still not a bad combo, but you wouldn't be making your gas electric that you would want. So you can't really go gas electric on this build. You have to go straight gas. Straight gas is an option. You would just go toxic here, and you would actually get a free mod slot for something. So you could actually keep Hunter munitions on and just use this for your Riven. Or if you don't have a Riven, I think Primed Firestorm would probably be the next best option, because it would increase those explosions. I didn't do testing today, like with the viral heat versus gas, but I like the viral heat setup on this weapon. I'm super happy with it. I feel like it's very, very powerful. Although you might be happy with that gas, and I explained how to set up that gas too if you want. Okay, so that's how you build the Latron Prime. Now let's go over the evolutions real quick here. So first evolution is that you've just unlocked the evolution. Congratulations. Second evolution is where you actually get a choice. You increase your base damage by +6. And then on a puncture status effect, you get +25 multi-shot for 8 seconds, stacking up to 4 times. So that's 100% multi-shot, which means 1 extra bullet, because this weapon has average multi-shot. Average multi-shot is 1, so 100% is 1 extra bullet. So because this weapon has very high puncture values, and yeah, it has a decent status chance, especially if you're going with the 260/60s, it's very easy to just stay at 4 times on this. So you're pretty much always going to be at that 1 extra bullet, and that 1 extra bullet is a huge amount of damage, actually. It's about 33-ish% extra damage on this weapon, which is a huge amount. So Riddle Target is very easily the best choice here. Let's go over Swift Punishment, though, real quick. Swift Punishment, increased base damage by +6, with a sprint speed of 1.2 or higher, plus 30% direct damage per status type affecting the target. I always check to see if a weapon is multiplicative. There's 2 places I check. I check the wiki in the bug report on the bottom, and then there's a separate a separate condition overload mechanics wiki page that has like all of the weapons that are multiplicative. And I could not find the Latron on either of those things. So I'm going to assume that the Latron is additive with ranged condition overload. And because of that, this isn't very good. If it was multiplicative, then this would be the way to go. But everything I see is it's additive. So that makes Riddle Target the easy choice. All right, third evolution. We have 3 options here. So we are going to go with -30% zoom. This weapon has a little bit of an above average zoom. It can kind of be annoying. Maybe you like the zoom though, and that's okay. If you like the zoom, then definitely don't do this. But I don't like the zoom. I like to be able to see like my peripheries. So I'm going to go with negative zoom. Extended volley does not work on the Incarnon mode, and we are building for the Incarnon mode. So this is not an option. Marksman's hand reduces our weapon recoil. However, the Incarnon mode doesn't have recoil, so this doesn't affect us as well. So that's why we're going with negative zoom there. Now, if you like the zoom for some reason, then obviously you wouldn't pick this. And I probably just would pick extended volley in that case, because it'll let you spam your non-Incarnon a little bit more to get those headshots easier. Like you wouldn't really have to line headshots up super carefully. You could just kind of spam stupidly because you have the extra bullets for it. But yeah, I'm going to be going for Marksman's Focus for the negative zoom. Okay, fourth evolution here. We're going to be going for Critical Parallel. Increases base critical chance by 24%. That is huge. This is base critical. Base critical means that everything gets multiplied on it, which is nuts. And the same thing with the critical damage. That's base critical multiplier. It's only 0.2, but everything gets multiplied on top of that. Like all the mods work on it and everything. So this is a crazy amount. So I feel like this is a pretty easy choice, but let's go over the others here. Deadhead is plus 100% headshot damage. This is okay, but I don't think it beats the critical. And then Flensing Spikes remove 20% of enemy armor per puncture status. So we're going to be producing a lot of puncture statuses. However, we're not really a super quick firing weapon. Like we fire kind of slowly with this weapon. And so enemies aren't, you're not going to be stacking a crap load of statuses. It's unlikely that an enemy will actually, like, I guess, you know what, puncture only stacks up to 5. I guess maybe they could get 5 puncture stacks before they die, but you're mostly going to be seeing enemies die in 1 or 2 hits. And so a lot of times they're actually not going to have full puncture statuses on them. So I think like in normal gameplay, you could really only, even though this like it looks like it has the potential to fully strip, enemies are probably going to die before they get fully stripped. So you can kind of look at this as like a partial strip almost. I don't know. I think there's opportunities to use flanging spikes maybe if you were using some externals as well. But for me, I think critical parallel is the best choice here. Alrighty, that is the evolutions. That is the build. What we're going to do is we're going to show this in 10 minutes of Steel Path Mott. Because I don't mix this with any externals, I'm going to be showing this on a big dumb Inaros with no Archon shards that increase weapon performance. No mods or arcanes on the Inaros that increase weapon performance. And with a Sentinel with no Sentinel weapon and no mods on the Sentinel that increase weapon performance. That way you guys can make your own conclusions about adding those external things. You could be like, you know what, Salt added, put Viral on his weapon, but I want to go gas, and I'm just going to use Nourish. That way I get Viral and gas. Hey, that could be the meta right there with the Latron. Then you get both of them. All right, let me shut my mouth and look for this thing. Where is it? Void. Mott, there it is. Okay.
Their rage is vehement, their focus impressive.
So I'm going to cast my 3 once in a while just to give myself armor and status immunity, and that's the only thing I'll be casting.
Life support has been cut off.
So because we're not building for the non-Incarnon, the non-Incarnon is going to feel a little bit bad. You're just going to use it to fill your Incarnon. So you're just trying to get headshots. Once it's full, you're going to switch. And then just get to your adventure here. One of the biggest problems you're going to have on this weapon is seeing past all the red crits. Sometimes it's very hard to see through all the red crits on your screen. I would actually recommend not going fire rate on this weapon, just because you don't want to waste your ammo. Like, most things are going to die in 1 or 2 hits, so you don't really want to waste your ammo. So just kind of tap fire. Just tap fire. I'm back in the non-Incarnon. Trying to get some headshots. All right, I don't want to go through the reload animation, so I'm just going to go into Incarnon a little bit early. That's okay. We got a big room here. Let's farm in this big room. Now you're still going to want to try to get headshots with this. You can still easily get headshots. You just have to actually aim for the head. And headshots are going to increase your scope stacks and get you into even higher crit tiers. So you're already in reds. Actually, I think you're even without scope stacks. I think you're in reds +1 exclamation. And I think with max scope stacks, you can get to 2 exclamations. I just saw a couple of two exclamations there. So this thing is disgustingly powerful. Absolutely disgustingly powerful. Now, of course, if I didn't have anything that reduced stagger, like if I didn't have that mod that reduces stagger, I would be going on a self-staggering adventure. So you definitely need either the mod that reduces self-stagger or a Warframe that reduces stagger somehow. Get some headshots. Go back into Incarnon sometime. I'm just going to go in Incarnon a little bit early here. It's okay. The actual reload for the base Latron is pretty dookie. So if you don't want to sit through the base Latron's reload, just go into Incarnon. Because when you go out of Incarnon, it'll reload it for you. But you see, even with negative 30% zoom, like the zoom is pretty crappy. Like it's still pretty like zoomed in. So if you can get a Riven with more negative zoom, that could be cool. I don't know. That's me though. Maybe you like the zoom. Again, maybe you're like the weird person that likes the zoom. Don't be shy about going into Incarnon early. It's no problem. The only thing you get is less bullets to shoot while you're Incarnon. It's not like you actually... you don't get like a weaker Incarnon or anything. It's all the same. You just get a little bit less bullets. And then when you come out of Incarnon, your base Latron is already reloaded. So you don't actually have to sit through that Latron reload. A blast is also a possible. So you know how I said the gas, it has innate heat. You can just put toxic there. Same thing with blast. You know, it has innate heat, so you could put cold there, and cold and heat would make blast. So you could do blast and a free mod slot, or you could do the viral. I'm personally going to go with viral. I know I didn't do testing. Maybe I should have did testing today against those elements, but because we're using Hunter munitions, I feel like it kind of combos with viral a bit better. So we get viral and heat and slash. So we got a lot going on for viral. That's why I'm picking viral, but I think the other ones are possible choices. And like I said, you get a free mod slot with those two, right? Because you don't need to spend as many mods to make gas or blast because you get that free heat. Now let's go into Incarnon. Fire a few shots at this guy. He's dead. This is a Acolyte Slayer. This is a ranged weapon that actually competes with melee weapons for Acolyte slaying. Most of the time, ranged weapons are garbage. I shouldn't say garbage, but comparatively to melees, most ranged weapons are pretty ass at Acolyte slaying, but not this one. This one is right up there with the melee weapons. Come on, guys. Give me some headshots. There we go. There's a few variations of the Latron. There is the regular Latron, the Latron Wraith, and the Latron Prime. And similar to when we did the Gorgon video, the stats that the Latron regular and the Latron Wraith get are different than the ones that the Latron Prime get from evolutions. So Wraith and regular base Latron get more stats from the evolution tiers than Latron Prime does. But the base stats of Latron Prime are better mostly. I think the Wraith has slightly better crit chance. So I think at the end of the day, the Prime will be the best one, but I think because of the increased stats on evolutions that the Wraith and the base alt get, I think you shouldn't be sad if you don't have a Latron Prime, but you still want to like do the Latron Incarnon, and like let's say all you have is Latron Wraith. I think it would be very close to the Latron Prime because you would just get more stats from those evolutions. So if you're just getting unlucky with getting the Latron Prime out of relics, and all you're sitting on is like a Latron Wraith, or even a base Latron, the increased stats from evolutions may make it like very similar to the actual Latron Prime. I think they have a slightly higher dispos too. I think the Latron Prime is a 4 dispo, and I think the Wraith and the regular are 5 dispos. Which is crazy. This is an absolutely disgustingly powerful weapon with a high Riven disposition. It's like, oh my goodness, what were they thinking? What were they thinking? Crit, or not crit, Riven stats for this weapon are going to be your basic crit damage, crit chance, multi-shot stats. And you're going to value crit damage the most. So you're going to value crit damage the most out of those 3.
They cut me down, but still I speak. I am energy, and I cannot be destroyed.
We got some guys up top here. Yeah, we got a little group of guys up here. Let's teach them a lesson. This is a very forgiving weapon, too, because even if you miss, it's still going to bounce around. So it's not like you completely waste an Incarnon shot if you miss. Which I like. Let me get one life support here. Something I didn't mention is that punch through will not work on the Incarnon mode. So like this is a semi-automatic weapon, and like you do have the potential to use that cannonade mod that gives it punch through and flat damage, but punch through will not work on the Incarnon mode. It'll work on the non-Incarnon, but since we're building for the Incarnon mode, it's kind of like useless to use it. You would get the 300 flat, but you don't really need more flat. Here's the up top.
The longer you fight, the more
Let's finish Mania off real quick before we get in. All right, he's dead. Okay, so we got 892 kills in 10 minutes. It's pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. Let's head to extraction. Should be this way. Yep, 8092. I just checked again just to make sure no one died from slash in the meantime. But they didn't. Yeah, this is definitely one of the most powerful weapons in the game. This is easily top 10 and very close to being top 5 probably weapons in the game. So if you have the potential to pick up the Latron Prime Incarnon, definitely do so. It is a extremely powerful weapon. Yeah, definitely top 10, probably close to being in the top 5 as well. All right, so that was the Latron Prime Incarnon. I hope you guys like that. Thanks for the suggestion there, Ninja5879 and Zamai. So if you guys liked it, consider giving it a like. If you haven't subbed yet, consider subbing, or tell me what I can do to earn your sub. We're getting close to that 2,000. I think we're like 90 or 100-ish people away. So we're getting close there, guys. All right, you guys have a great day.